There is an argument for God's existence that even the great Christopher Hitchens didn't like to come up against. That argument is the teleological argument, or the fine-tuning argument. So this isn't going to be an exhaustive exploration into all the nuances and differences in the teleological arguments that exist. I'm going to try to kind of keep it brief, just so you get the general gist of what this argument is and why it is so hard to defend for the atheist, as Christopher Hitchens lets you know.
At some point, certainly, we're all asked, well, which is the best argument you've yet come up against from the other side? And I think every one of us picks the fine-tuning one as the most intriguing.
The Goldilocks one. Yeah, okay.
Fine-tuning the 1 degree, one hair different to nothing. But even though it doesn't prove a designer could all have happened without it, you have to spend time thinking about it, working on it. It's not a trivial. We all say that.
The reason it's difficult is because here's the argument. The argument is to look at the universe, look at all the physical laws. Think of physics class all those years ago where you went over the law of gravity, the law of thermodynamics, all these laws that exist that hold things together, that hold the universe together, like from the smallest atom to galaxies, right? There are all these laws in place, and they hold everything that exists together, and they remain constant. They don't vary, they're the same throughout the universe, whether you're on Mars, Earth, or in some galaxy far, far away. They're always the same rules, the same laws, because they have to be. If they change just a tiny fraction, if the law of gravity changed just a tiny fraction and it got stronger, the universe would collapse upon itself and nothing would exist. If it was changed just a tiny fraction weaker, then everything would fly apart, including electrons. Atoms would not be able to stay together. Think of that, atoms we're talking about, let alone getting to life and complex life and life that has some sort of mind, that has a consciousness, all that stuff definitely couldn't exist, let alone even just the tiniest little thing like an atom. So all these laws have to be in place for these things to work, for you to just have a desk or a planet or a rock. You have to have these laws working. If they don't work by just changing it just a tiny little hair, if you just change it just a tiny little bit, everything's ruined. Not only that, all these different laws hinge upon the other laws working. So it's not enough if you just take out one but you leave the others. If you take out one, if you change one just by a little bit, all the others collapse as well. So all the laws hinge upon the other laws as well. And all these things have to be working perfectly, as we just said. They have to be working perfectly to the exact parameters that they're working right now. If that doesn't happen, everything unravels. So everything has to be completely zeroed in all the time, or universe is gone. This seems pretty odd to have happened, let's say, randomly, by chance. If we were to try to conceive of another world, an alternate reality, where one of those gravitational laws was changed a little bit, as we just said, nothing would exist there. So it has to happen perfectly or not at all. There's no real chance involved in this situation because we obviously have life. We have a world, we have a planet, we have the universe, we have galaxies, we have all these things, we have atoms, obviously. So how did that happen? The chances of it just randomly happening are so unbelievably small that it's not even worth talking about. It's really just plain foolishness. So, what are you left with? Well, Christians would say, and those defending theism would say, well, there has to be a designer. Somebody has to be fine-tuning the universe. Thus the name, the fine-tuning argument. This, to me, is a pretty persuasive argument. If you're looking at all the facts, all the different variables that have to be going correct, and their margin of error is not there. If that's the situation, this seems obvious that the conclusion would be there has to be somebody designing it. Now, it doesn't get you all the way to the Christian God or anything like that. But as an argument for theism, it seems pretty convincing. Seems pretty compelling. To stick with it randomly happening seems to defy all the facts that are being given here. I mean, it seems crazy, ludicrous to actually believe that this all just randomly, perfectly all aligned, and all those factors perfectly all aligned. Seems ridiculous and crazy. So, this is the power of the teleological argument, and this is why even Christopher Hitchens is telling us that, yeah, this is a serious argument. Because what do you say against that? One of the objections against the fine-tuning argument is that there could have been a multiverse, sort of like in Doctor Strange, multiverse of madness. I've never seen it, but I hear it's terrible. Isn't that right, Mike? According to Mike, that's where I get all my facts from. No one else but Mike Beach.
Yes, you did.
So anyways, back to the multiverse. So if there were enough universes that all got started, they all got set off, and you have all these different universes set off, and they're all starting, well, some are going to have the variables to this number, and they're obviously not going to work out. But if you had enough universes all started, eventually, right? Eventually, through just mere chance, again, we're going back to random chance and trying to make it work because we're kind of stuck. It's either design or chance. So we're trying to make random chance still work for us. So if we had enough universes to start, eventually one is going to start with the correct numbers. You're going to get all of them to line up, right? If you play the game long enough, is what they're saying, eventually you're going to strike the perfect Goldilocks universe in which everything will happen, planets will hold together, atoms will hold together, and then you will get life and everything else. So that's an objection to the fine-tuning argument.
Life finds a way.
The problem with this argument is that it's a belief kind of statement. There is no factual proof of a multiverse. It's mere conjecture, and there's no real solid basis to even believe one even exists. While it's an interesting argument, we need something that's actually grounded in reality of a possibly true alternative. And for that reason, the multiverse thing doesn't work. It seems to be like the loophole that always gets used to get out of any tough spot. Multiverse. Another objection is that perhaps it is just the necessity of these factors that they have to perform in this manner. That there is no possible way that they could have been any different.
Yes, science!
This is sort of a pretty lame objection because you're not really providing any argument. You're just saying because it is, because it has to be that way.
What?
So you're not really engaging in the argument, you're just saying 'cause. That's a pretty lame objection. However, some people take that objection route and that's what they use. We would really never accept that in anything else, so I don't know why we would accept that as a good answer here. Another objection is that some sort of system or some sort of thing, although non-intelligent, some sort of non-intelligent thing through also some sort of metaphysical means initiated this universe and did it in this certain way where everything operates at a perfect point.
Nope.
So this thing's still kind of outside the universe, outside the physical world here, but it's not an intelligent thing. It's just a system that is just necessarily predisposed to initiate all these factors perfectly when creating a universe. Now, this also sounds very lame.
That's stupid! Use your common sense.
Of an objection, because you're simply trying to describe some sort of creator, although you're trying to choose as many words as possible not to say that's what you're describing. So once again, you're going back to a design type of argument, that there's something outside the universe that is designing these factors so that the universe can exist.
They laughed at us when we said that aliens existed, and they mocked us when we started wearing bubble wrap jumpsuits, but who's laughing now, huh?
All three of these objections really stink. They're really poor arguments. Now, there could be more, and maybe you guys can put those in the comments, that there are better arguments than the ones I've gone over, but as far as I've seen, there's not been any really good arguments against the fine-tuning argument. It's pretty undeniable and it's pretty hard. I mean, there is a reason why Christopher Hitchens is mentioning this argument, because it's tough. How do you explain it? How do you explain all these things? It seems crazy, especially when you get into like the Earth being in the perfect spot and all these different factors that go along with it. It just gets crazy after a while. I mean, the evidence is overwhelming, how precise all these factors. It's like the more that you learn, the more that you discover, the more unbelievable all this is, that it exists at all. But those are the three objections, at least the common ones that I hear. If you're interested in learning a little bit more about these arguments or what these factors are, I have a few resources I just plopped out here. One is The Privileged Planet. This is a really good one. It talks about a lot of factors that we've gone over. Especially concerning just Earth and where it sits and all that stuff. It's a really good book, really good. And then this is just a general Christian apologetics book, but it goes through many arguments, so it's a good bang for your buck. But it goes into the fine-tuning argument and lists many factors from many scientists and shows like how crazy it's got to be. But if you're looking for something that'll just kind of give you a good look into what's being talked about or what these facts are, these are some good books to kind of get started, get your feet wet. Well, that's all for this episode. I'd like to say thank you to our Patreon supporters. You keep the lights on and everything running here, and we definitely appreciate it. So thank you for your support. If you like this episode and want to check out more of our content, make sure you subscribe and probably see some of the videos popping up here pretty soon from Editor-in-Chief Mikey Beach. And yeah, we cover topics in apologetics, Christianity, and textual criticism, and just kind of take a deep dive into those areas. All right, till next time. Grace and peace, brothers and sisters.